This is OBN Horn of Africa. You're watching our weekly program, Talk to OBN. Today we'll be talking about, the Horn political, economic, and social dynamics. And I joined by Mika Chavala. Mika Chavala is a Pan-Africanist and Horn political analyst and content creator on social media. Mika Chavala, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we'll be talking about this Horn of Africa and Horn political, economic, and social integration. How do you see the current status and the gesture of this, regional cooperation, particularly in the Horn of Africa?
Yeah, I think Horn of Africa is in the breakthrough right now, because every time one change is about to happen, the tension increases as well. So I see this as a very positive thing. When you see like one country, another country, there's a tension, and another country, there's a collaboration happen, then you realize that actually people are waking up right now, and they're actually open to cooperating with the rest of African countries. It was not too long ago whereby, Africans were living individually. We did not want to cooperate. You would rather cooperate with the Western countries than your own African country. But right now, for example, the initiative that Ethiopia is taking to go different sides of the Horn of Africa and trying to create all these MOU and everything, I think it's a good sign that shows that we're willing to cooperating with one another, and we're willing to put our differences aside and work together. And this can only be done if both sides actually come on the table and agreeing that, you know what, we want to be one, we want to serve our people.
You've raised this, inking of this memoranda between Kenya, Ethiopia and Tanzania, South Sudan, and other neighboring countries in the Horn of Africa. What is your takeaway from the agreement made between Tanzania and Ethiopia and Kenya lately? And our Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, last week.
I was actually so happy, when the Prime Minister came to Tanzania, but also I was a little sad because I was not invited. But I took it as a very positive, because you know how much I love Ethiopia, and I call myself Ethiopian because I believe all of us, we're Ethiopians, all of us, we're Tanzanians, all of us, we're Africans. And seeing Ethiopia and Tanzania actually sitting on the table and trying to come together with different understanding, or setting up some goals and deals, for the future cooperation. I see it as a very positive move, because, these are two great countries with two different history. Even you can talk about, Kenya as well. We're neighbors. And I think it's just about time for the Horn of Africa and East Africa allied to actually come together and search for the ways how can we work together towards the change that we want in our continent. Because we all know that the Horn of Africa and East Africa is one of the very important place for the rest of Africa, as well for the rest of the world. That's why we see there's a constant wars happening in the Horn of Africa, constant conflicts and everything. There's a lot of that we need to take at the stake in this side. And this can only happen when Africans wake up and start engaging with one another, start, extending their borders and open their hands for cooperation. And I think that's what will bring a change in the eastern side of Africa. Eventually, it will grow across the continent of Africa at large as well.
Well, you've said, you're Tanzanian, you're Ethiopian, and you're African at large. So can you tell me the features of governance in Tanzania, or the commonality between Tanzania and Ethiopia in terms of governance this time?
I think both parts, Tanzanian government and Ethiopian government, they're all open for cooperation. That's why they had this, meeting and talks, and they signed MOU. I think both sides realize that, we have a lot to gain from one another, than, you know, what we can lose, right? There's no reason for us not to come together as one people, because we have a lot of things that Tanzania actually can benefit from Ethiopia, and Ethiopia as well can benefit from Tanzania. And I think that's what kind of agreements they came about. There's a lot of stuff. There's things about economic, there's things about tourism, there's things about agriculture, you know what I'm saying? There's things about, you know, exchanging expertise and technology, you know, all these things I think we can really benefit from one another if we come together, and even history as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I always say this, that I see Ethiopia as a mother of Africa, and that is because this was the country that were never colonized. And if you want to experience the pure African culture, you need to go to Ethiopia. But also, if you come to my country as well, Tanzania, you can see that. You could see that. You can go to Zanzibar, you can go to Dar es Salaam, and different parts of, you know, Tanzania. So all this exchange between two countries and two people, I think it really change a lot of things. Even talking about visa issue and the access of Ethiopians coming to Tanzania for tourism and Tanzanians going to Ethiopia, I think it's going to change a lot of things. So it's just my hope and prayer that this MOU will actually be actualized as soon as possible, and we'll see the impact of the agreement that these two great countries have made.
You are one of the staunch Pan-Africanists, and lately you've been to Ethiopia, and you I mean, really appreciated the Adwa Victory Museum.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I want to mention, this thing is it boosts up, I mean, solidarity and African unity. I mean, how Tanzanians view this continental museum?
I gotta be honest with you, my brother. Not a lot of people knows about this history of Adwa, and that's why I felt responsible to really stand on the front line to talk about the Battle of Adwa. Not only to Tanzanians, but to the rest of Africa and the rest of the world, because I think we're not covering this story enough. A lot of time when we talk about colonialism, we simply talk about how we were colonized, and we forgot that actually in the same continent of Africa, you know, we have our brothers and sisters that were never colonized, and that is because of determination, the unity, and the oneness of the people of Ethiopia when they came together and fight against Italians. So I felt that responsibility, and that's why I came to Ethiopia. You know, I remember it was last year, even before they launched this Adwa Museum, you know, I spoke about the story, I showed the place, and I'm trying to bring this awareness to the rest of Africans to understand that, you know, the story of Africa is not just about us losing and being colonized, but also it's about us being victorious, right? And that's why we have the Battle of Adwa, the symbol of Black power. And this is something that not only Ethiopians should be proud of, but the rest of Africans should be proud of, because it is representing what we did as a people, you know, in the side of the eastern side of Africa, or the Horn of Africa. You know, I was actually, you know, a little sad that I was not invited, you know, during the launch of that, you know, museum, because I was the first one to film and to show the world. But, you know, whatever the case is, this is something that I think all Africans should be aware of. And Tanzanians right now and the rest of Africa, and they begin to understand this. They begin to know, all right, now how can I see myself in Adwa? Because a lot of us right now, we think that, oh, Adwa, that happened in Ethiopia, but, you know, I'm not coming from that country. I'm from southern part of Africa. How does that relate to me? No, it relates to you because it's the story of your people, your own people, who fought the colonizers. You know, Italians, they also, you know, colonized Somalia, just the next country to Ethiopia. But this country, Ethiopia, there were never colonized because, you know, of, you know, what they did, and they fought those, you know, those colonizers. So we must see ourselves in this battle, and that should encourage us and motivate us to move forward, to fight against the neo-colonialism that the continent is facing today.
Again, Mika Chavala, you follow, I mean, every activities in the continent, and you know, Ethiopian politics more than or equivalent to an Ethiopian fellow. You know, the political and economic reform has happened lately over the past 5 years. How do you see this achievement?
I know to some extent of things that are happening in Ethiopia, and I think it's something to be proud of, and it's very fascinating to see all the challenges that are going in Ethiopia, but yet managing to actually shine in the continent, and also outside of the continent as well economically. I think it's something to applaud, and I think it's something to acknowledge. But I would love to go far beyond that. And this, I always talk about that, for the people of Ethiopia, themselves. I believe that the progress in economy should go perpendicular with the well-being of the people. And I think this is what a lot of time we forget, because we might have a lot of good things happen in the country, but what about the people? How do they live, day-to-day life? What are they moving forward? And I think this is the call to Ethiopia and to the rest of Africans, that it is that time for us to join our hands together, because it's not just one man who is going to change the country, but it is the collaboration and partnership of the whole individuals. If Ethiopians, all Ethiopians; if Africans, all Africans, to come together and to fight for the country, to fight for the economy of our continent and our countries. And that is my call. Imagine if one person he can bring change to the country. What will happen if 100 million people or 60 million people come together and bring about the change in the country? I think that will be fascinating. And I think that it should be the wake-up call that, we have a lot of differences, we have a lot of things going on, but why don't we hold our hands together and fight for the economy of our next generation, not only today, but for 1,000 years to come? Where do we want to be? And how can we do right now to get where we want to be?
Ethiopia has this, Grand Renaissance Dam, and Tanzania is one of the African nations which agreed to share electric power from Ethiopia. How do you see this initiative, and what role would this GERD play in boosting regional and continental integration?
I think it's the time to light up the continent. And the initiative that Ethiopia took to build this dam, regardless of the resistance from a neighboring country and the resistance from the Western countries, I think it's something to be proud of. It shows the boldness, it shows the confidence, it shows the determination of Ethiopians people. Because we remind you that this is a dam that, it was built 100% by Ethiopians, right? But right now they are open to share their resources and what the blood, sweat, and tears brought to the existence with the rest of Africa. So, this is something to be applauded of. And I think, the only way forward is to actually share our resources, trade amongst one another, sharing what we have. Like if Ethiopia is going to be free from darkness, then the entire continent of Africa should be free of that darkness. And it can only happen if we share together our resources, right? And at the same time, Ethiopia will be able to make a lot of money and to develop other sectors in the country. So this, I see it as a very positive move, because if we want the continent that is industrialized, if we want the continent that we can manufacture and produce things in the continent and not just send raw materials outside and then bring end product to the continent, then we need to have electricity. Then we need to have industries that will run for 24/7. And I think having this electricity dam, I think this is the change in our continent in decades to come. And our kids in the next generation, they're not going to live in the same world we're living today.
Ethiopia and Tanzania are intertwined in many spheres, culturally and other social spheres. Can you just mention some features and characteristics of the two nations that they share together?
Yeah. Oh, I think I'll just start with music, man. Myself, I'm a musician. I love music. I'm a big fan of Ethiopian music and my country's music as well. And one of the interesting things is that Tanzanians would dance by using our lower body, hips going down. But Ethiopians, they're using upper body. Sure. So you can see the combination of Ethiopian music and Tanzanian music, what will it produce? It'll produce like the whole body going like this, up and down. So that is very fascinating, me thinking about that. And I think exchanging of that culture musically it's gonna be amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because I love so much Ethiopian jazz. Listening to it, it always brings this peace and positive vibe in my heart. And Tanzania as well, when I listen to that, it's amazing. When you talk about food, in Ethiopia you have injera, Tanzania we have ugali. You can see that combination, how it looks like. When you talk about meat and all those stuff, and it's just it's just incredible what I see happening between Tanzania and Ethiopia. This is what I've been talking about for the for the previous 3 years. A lot of Ethiopians, they always thought I was Kenyan. Even some of them right now, they think I'm Kenyan because Ethiopia is pretty much close to Kenya, but Tanzania, it would seem to be a little bit far away. And I kind of feel like I should be maybe ambassador of Ethiopia and Tanzania because, I kind of started to bring this even awareness of this great country of Ethiopia to my people, Tanzania. A lot of people, they just knew that, Ethiopia, there's always war, there's always that. They did not know the uniqueness of the culture of Ethiopia and that this is the pure African culture. So us Ethiopians, Tanzanians, coming together culturally, economically, and even our development, I think it's the game changer. And I think it will be really, really nice. And my call and my prayer is this: that, man, even these visa issues that we have, because right now, currently, Ethiopians to come to Tanzania is more difficult than them going to United States. So I believe, likewise, the same way. So I think it's very important to loosen up all this restriction that we have, so that we can have the free movement of people within our country, not only in the government level, but also in a personal level. If we open the borders like that, then I think there's a lot of things to win at stake, more than anything else, even intermarriage as well. Like Tanzanians marrying Ethiopians, Ethiopians marrying Tanzanians, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we need, my brother.
Okay. Tanzania is mostly known for being tourist hubs in the Eastern Africa, and Ethiopia is doing a lot in the advancement of the tourism destination. How do you see this, and what should Ethiopia learn more from Tanzania in terms of accelerating the tourism sector?
To be honest, Tanzania, is doing pretty good job when it comes to that. And that happened after, I believe, 1 year ago when the Madam President of Tanzania, Mama Samia Suluhu, she launched this campaign that called Loyal Tour. So she was the one moving to all these touristic places, touring, and they released kind of like a move. And since then, a lot of people, they came to Tanzania for tourism. All right. And I think this is something that we can learn from one another, but not only that, a lot of, world wonders, when you look at Tanzania, you can talk about Kilimanjaro, the highest volcanic mountain in the world. You can talk about Serengeti. You can talk about Zanzibar, one of the beautiful, island in the continent and in the world as well. Ngorongoro crater. You can talk about Selous Park. You can talk about Mikumi Ruaha National Park. Okay. When you go to Ethiopia, you can talk about Lalibela, something that it's crazy. It's insane. Those churches that were building on the mountain and deep inside the ground. And, over 600 years ago, our people did that, so having these natural, resources and natural, things that attract people to actually come, we can actually learn from one another by visiting. I remember I fell in love with Ethiopia when I went to those places and look at all these beautiful places. And I think the same thing, what Ethiopia can learn from Tanzania is how the Madam President, did this approach last year. And I think a lot of people have been coming because the president of the country was actually promoting the beauty of Tanzania, right? And now it's not just in East Africa, but in Africa. It's actually the touristic hub in Africa. Like when you look at the numbers, how much money is coming every single year because of tourism in the country, it is amazing. And also because of the stability of the country as well. So a lot of people, they feel like, if you go there, feel safe and will be able to enjoy all this, the nature and the beauty of the country. Yeah. And I think that is the responsibility that the people of our countries, the people from Ethiopia, we need to take initiative, to fight for that peace with everything we got, so that we can have a lot of tourists coming to our country and, see the wonders in our countries.
What has to be done to bring this regional integration more than ever?
This is my passion and my purpose in life, to bring this regional integration between countries and countries. And you know, I think it is that time in Africa and in our countries to leave our differences behind, and you know, to leave these, because you know, all countries in Africa, we have, you know, historical background, right? You know, we can talk about 100 years ago, you know, what happened between this country and that country. You know, we can talk about that, but you know, are we really willing to lose our current state of our countries based on what happened 100 years ago? We were not even there. Or do we choose to move forward right now and to actually hold our hands together and figure out the new ways? How can we move forward as one people? And I think instead of really just looking backward in order to go forward, I think it's the time to look at where we are and to look at the future. You know, one guy, I love one guy, his name is Miles Monroe. He said that, you know, the politicians are concerned about the next election, but our leaders are concerned about the next generation. And I think the current leadership and the current generation of Africans, we should be highly concerned about the next generation. And what can we do today as a regional integration to prepare the better future for our kids tomorrow? Because all negativity that is happening in the region right now is not good for anything. You know, there's a tension between Rwanda, Congo, Somalia, and, you know, Ethiopia, this and that, and all this, they're not doing anything good to our continent. So as a people, as our countries and our leaders, you know, think about this critically and think about how can we create a better future for the next generation. And we have that responsibility to decide today, and which including, you know, removing these borders that we have. You know what I'm saying? Like really removing them and allowing our people to move freely in the eastern part of Africa, in the Horn of Africa. You know, leaving aside and looking at the ways, how can we benefit from each other? How can we use what we have? And in the entire continent, as well as African Union, to look at the ways, how can we bring our continent together? How can we be free, you know, from the loans and aids that we get from outside? How can we really work, you know, for our people and making sure that the Vision 2063 is happening today and not 40 years from now? And I think that will be the entire change of this continent, and our people, you know, in the diaspora and in the continent will actually celebrate this. And, you know, because we're all concerned about the next generation, actually. You know, right now we kind of, you know, a little bit late, but we can actually do something for the next generation, and, you know, we can do it today.
Well, you're active in claiming this Pan-Africanism, and obviously Pan-Africanism is a little bit pacified these days. And what ought to be done to reclaim and to revive it well?
I think it starts with unity. One of the forefathers, Julius Kambaga Nyerere, he said in 1963, May 1st, that, you know, without unity, there'll never be a future for Africa. And he also said that unity will not make us rich, but it will make it difficult for the external bodies to humiliate. It will make it difficult for Africans to be exploited. Therefore, we have to come together, right? So I think us reclaiming Pan-Africanism, it starts with that, because that is the main ideology of Pan-Africanism. Ubuntu spirit, that you are because I am because you are, right? And if we start from unity, then we are going to realize that we are actually fighting the same battle. And the only way out of this is for us to come together to strive to thrive. Because the philosophy and the idea that used to colonize Africa, and it was initiated in 1885 during Berlin Conference, it was to divide and rule and conquer. So if for us we want to get back to our feet, then we need to come together and conquer as well. And that is the only thing that we can do to defend this continent for a living, right? But more than that, also learning the history of Pan-Africanism. How did it start? Why our forefathers, you know, why they started this movement? They wanted to break out from this colonized mentality. They wanted to be free from the Western, you know, influence and aid, right? So for us, if we want to really bring that spirit, then it begins from education, teaching our people that, you know what, we can do things on our own. We are actually able to transform this continent by our own, African solutions to African solutions to Africa's problem with African money. That is very important, that we coming together, we can bring about a solution, we can change this continent, and we are able to do that. And I think that is the core value of Pan-Africanism. And all of us Africans, we need to tap into that moment and to move forwards together towards that change for this continent.
What are the reasons that paused this movement, this continental movement?
And another reason, I think it was basically to bring our people together, because that this movement started outside of the continent in the diaspora. Marcus Garvey and other great people, they started that after seeing that black man is not well respected, while he's the one who did all the good work, right? When you look at the Western countries, black men actually these countries were built because of the blood, sweat and tears of the black man. Right. So it was actually, reminding black men that, hey, you have a place in this world. You're not just a slave, but you're actually queens and kings. Right. And it's a moment for us to actually fight to the motherland, the continent, and bring that awakening in the continent, so that what has happened in 1985 will never happen in the country. But I'm concerned that right now we kind of forget about it. And it kind of seems like, there's a new scramble for Africa. Because you see Turkeys, you see attacks, you see Russia, you see, Chinese, and all these guys are, extremely calm to the continent. And while Africans were still kind of sleeping, we're not coming together, right? So I think, looking at that spirit of Pan-Africanism and how it started, it reminds us that, okay, guys, what happened in the past, it can actually happen today if we are asleep. We need to be very awake. We need to be awakened. And when we look at each other, let us not see the color. Let us not see the nationalities. Let us not see the religion. Let us not see the tribes. But let us see one people. And, I'm in Zambia right now, and I love the motto of Zambia. It says, one Zambia, one nation, one people. Right. And my mission is one Africa, like Swahili nation, one Africa. So we should have that spirit, the motto of one Africa, of one people. Because if you come to my country, you'll find some people from Ethiopia, Somalia, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, Malawi, Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, all of them, South Africa, Ngoni tribe, they are right here in the country, and they're all Tanzanians. This just reminds us that, hey, we are actually one people. And that was the main reason of Pan-Africanism. And you can bring that today. And we are doing that work here at Swahili Nation to remind our people and to decolonize them.
Mika Chavala, Tanzanian Pan-Africanist and social media influencer. Thank you for your invaluable insights.
Thank you so much for having me. Kudos to Ethiopia. I love you guys.
Dear viewers, this brings you to the end of our edition for today. See you next time with another edition. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a good one.